Today is a balmy April 13th, 2022. I'm in Trenton, New Jersey Amtrak station waiting for my SEPTA connection. I just arrived from New York on New Jersey Transit. It's 9:30 in the morning, waiting for my SEPTA train to Philadelphia, which will have Silverliner 4s. God, it's been ages since I rode on those things. I try to avoid them at all costs. Well, today I'm going to see a baseball game in Philadelphia. I'm going to see the Mets today. I'm going to root solidly behind my team. Go Phillies. We're at the east end of the New York bound platform. You get to look at this classic position light signal. Doesn't have the cadmium yellow, it's pretty much red, yellow, and green, depending on the aspect. But won't be doing too much rail fanning today. I usually do when I go down to Philly. It's a little change of pace today, but I'll get a little rail fanning in when possible. Well, over there is the SEPTA train arriving from Philly with that GE stuff. And soon arriving on track 1 will be Amtrak 172 from Washington to Boston. He's going to be leaving out of here on track 1 because he has to stop at Princeton Junction. Number 608. Here comes New Jersey. Coming in from New York. One of the earlier ALP 46s. That was a Sella 2151 en route from Boston to Washington. No stop here. Now as that transit train heads for Morrisville Yard, we got a New York bound train coming out of Morrisville. And we got some diesel equipment from Atlantic City line here, heading for Meadows. Looks like a shop train, 4303. Well, here's my train into town. Incidentally, that diesel equipment you saw pass through here at Trenton with the double-deckers is likely a yard move from Morrisville on the other side of the Delaware. Atlantic City generally uses single-level equipment. And we're just out of Trenton, going down the corridor. These things still move pretty good. They've been around a while, but I still like the Silverliner 5s though. This area here is Skiva Lake, not the Delaware River that I had originally thought. It's nicknamed the Redneck Riviera by locals. Look at all these trailers and cottages. They come up here to fish, get away from the sweltering heat of Philadelphia, New York. Pretty lengthy group. Well, we're stopped at Holmesburg Junction. We're in the Philadelphia city limits. Should see Amtrak 56, the Vermonter, go by soon. En route from Washington to St. Albans, Vermont. These tired Silverliner Thors, built by GE, were built in the 70s mostly. But they still have some get up and go. I still like the Silverliner 5s better though. Their pickup was much faster. What a beautiful horn. It's an S2M horn, very bland and boring. No comparison to a Silverliner 5 K3LA. For Amtrak 56. Should be in this general vicinity. Coming into Tacony. Usually I like to take Amtrak to Philly, but I only really do it when I can get a good fare, a special price. Today I wouldn't be able to get it. So for $12.15 I could ride New Jersey Transit and SEPTA down to Philly on a senior ticket. I would say that's a pretty good trade-off, only it takes more than twice as long to get there. Track 4. And over there behind this row of buildings is Interstate 95. You can see there's a lot of traffic on that road. Construction doesn't help any. That bridge you see in the background is the Tacony-Palmyra Bridge. Connects Tacony, Pennsylvania with, look at that. Shared assets local. Saw that last week around Frankfort Junction. Tacony-Palmyra Bridge connects Tacony, Pennsylvania with Palmyra, New Jersey. You look real hard in the horizon, you can see the Delaware Bridge. There's the old Wissonoming station, discontinued in 1998. Nice good old-fashioned Lenape Indian name. I would imagine that wasn't a very safe neighborhood to wait for a train. It's better off out of service. We're slowing for Bridesburg, which used to be referred to as Kirkbridesburg many years ago. See Philadelphia skyline in the background. Bridesburg. This is in a really old, gritty neighborhood of Philly. There are lots of old, gritty neighborhoods in the city. is the birthplace of the United States Marine Corps. It's an iconic city in America. Yeah, it has its problems, but it's legendary. It's where America was born. Lots of history in Philadelphia, lots of historic places to visit in Philadelphia, lots of interesting tourist attractions. That Baptist Worship Center church used to be a supermarket. If you know where to go, Philadelphia is a wonderful city, but it has its issues, granted. I don't deny that. They love their sports teams. In fact, one of the Phillies players the other day made 3 errors. Alec Boehm, his third baseman. I mean, making 3 errors, you're going to incur the wrath of your fans. They were booing him. He was supposedly quoted as saying, "I hate this place." Yeah, most likely frustration, but when you play that badly, you deserve to get booed even by your fans. But if you play well in Philadelphia, they'll be behind you 1,000%. Okay, this area here is Frankfurt, rounding an S-curve, very significant S-curve. It's where the old Frankfurt station used to be. See the junkyards here. If you want to sell scrap metal, you can make $1 million with a scrap metal place. Right here we're going to round a sharp curve to the right. The Amtrak 188 went over in 2015. Excessive speed. I'm not going to go into detail about it. I've been talking about it so much in the past. Here's the Atlantic City line coming in over there, up there on the deck girder bridge. Just came off the Delaware Bridge from New Jersey. Some position light signals. What a beautiful sound, isn't it? Enough already. What are you trying to do? Give me a toothache? Well, here's the old Frankfurt Junction station site here. Great train watching spot, gone forever. This shore tower burned in July of last summer. Keep interrupting me with that sound. There was a Market Frankfurt subway elevated there. He was picking up speed for his dash to North Philadelphia station. Next stop. This neighborhood definitely seen better days. There's Bennett Levin's house where he keeps his Pennsylvania Railroad E8s. Fire Anderson, well, he's gone now, so he ought to be happy about that. If I wanted to, we're coming in the North Philadelphia station here, which is right by Broad Street. If I wanted to, I could get off here and hop on the Broad Street subway and head straight down to Patterson Avenue where the ballpark is. But I really am not that anxious to get on the train here. I'll probably catch it at City Hall or one of those downtown stations south of City Hall. years ago the Route 23 streetcar, which ran from South Philadelphia through downtown, through North Philadelphia, up to Germantown and Chestnut Hill. I rode on that once. You talk about changing neighborhoods. That trolley was a spectrum of the good and the bad of a city. That's been gone since the 90s, early 90s, that trolley. Replaced by a bus. But the tracks still remain in many places. Right around here in this general area was where the Phillies' old ballpark, Connie Mack Stadium, used to be. They played there until 1970. 70. There's Broad Street right there, and you can see downtown straight. It's Pennsylvania Route 611. There's the old North Philadelphia passenger station building, which used to be a very important place back in Pennsy days. People would board here and board the streamliners that headed west to Chicago and St. Louis. They'd make their only stop in Philadelphia here, so it generated considerable long-distance business on those western routes. Bypass 30th Street. There's North Philadelphia Tower, all decorated in its paint job, represented the city of brotherly love. It's quite a distinction considering, and calling it that, considering Santa Claus is booed here. It can be a rough town, but I still love it. Right underneath here is the Renting Company's tracks into downtown.
Also, remember to keep your key cards and pants about. Make sure you have all your personal belongings and watch your step when exiting the train. 30th Street station left.
I'm going to ride this to Suburban, and I'll walk over to the Broad Street subway around City Hall. Philadelphia's got a lot of good restaurants. One I recommend is McCormick's and Schmick's, south of City Hall on Broad Street. They serve one of the best New England clam chowders I've ever eaten. Yeah, seems like I'm always coming back to this town. I don't know, I just love it. I've been coming here for over 50 years. I mean, when you come here that long, there has to be some kind of an affinity towards a place. I've just had so many great experiences, railfanning, visiting sites here, going to sporting events. I went to the old Veterans Stadium. I have some great memories there. I remember I was here once in March of 2004 after they imploded Veterans Stadium. And I went down there and people were walking away with concrete blocks from the stadium. It was crazy. Seats, concrete blocks, every little piece of cement they could get their hands on, they were walking away with it. But the stadium they have now, Citizens Bank Park, is a gorgeous place. One of the prettiest stadiums in baseball. Yeah, they always go pretty slow through here. Getting restricting signal at Zoo. They have to go past the interlocking and take a duck under to head over to Suburban and the upper level of 30th Street. The track on the far end is used by NS and CSX freights to and from Pavonia Yard in Camden. I've seen Philly change a lot in a half a century. Some ways it's gotten better, some ways it's gotten worse. But the only constant that exists is my love for the place. that was train 643. That was the Keystone from New York to Harrisburg. I rode on that train last week when I came down here. Alright, we're approaching Zoo Interlocking here. Seems like a short, it seems like a long and a short is the universal whistle signal for acknowledging track workers. So this is Mantua portion of the zoo. Down there, that track heads towards Park Junction. Here's the Schuylkill River. Beautiful view, sunny day. It's going to be around 81 degrees here today. In the foreground is Girard Avenue, where the Route 15 trolley usually runs, but those PCCs are being rebuilt. Hopefully they'll be back again later this year. Now we just came out of the tunnel of Zoo Interlocking. The tracks at the far end are Amtrak, heading to the lower level of 30th Street. The tracks we're on connect to the upper level of 30th Street. Go through this stone-lined tunnel. Zoo interlocking is one of the more complicated, if not the most complicated interlocking in the country. Most, I'd bet on it. That elevated structure is the old West Philadelphia elevator branch. CSX freight use it today. Did you see that? That was a SEPTA ACS 64 push-pull set. As I was saying, the West Philadelphia elevator branch, used by CSX Freights, it was used years ago by Army-Navy football specials to the stadium south of the city. You can see the impressive Philadelphia skyline. It's changed a lot in 50 years. When I first started coming here in the late 60s, tallest building in town, you can't even see it anymore, was the PSFS building. Second tallest was City Hall. They were all hidden behind these monolithic skyscrapers. There's another ACS 64. Wow. And there's one of these things. There are those great Greyhounds, the Silverliner 5s. More of them. This is Powelton Avenue Yard for SEPTA. That's where they store their MU equipment during the day. Line down below is the tracks coming in from the airport, Media, and Wilmington, Delaware. Two tracks on the far end are trains for Chestnut Hill West, Trenton, Kinwood, Thorndale. 30th Street, I believe. Alright, next stop, Suburban. Okay, there's the Schuylkill River with the Art Museum up on top. It's a 4-track main going down into the tunnel leading to Suburban. Suburban Station replaced the old Broad Street station, which ran alongside of the track we're on now. Broad Street Station was built on what they call the Chinese Wall on JFK Boulevard. That was torn down in the 1950s. Something's coming out of the tunnel. Another Silverliner 5 Greyhound. All right. Okay, trying to get off. I just emerged from Suburban Station, looking at the mighty, magnificent Philadelphia City Hall. This area where I'm standing is where Broad Street Station used to be, with the Pennsylvania Railroad. Beautiful day, gorgeous. One of the things about Long Island I really don't like in the spring, you get those breezes off the ocean, and it really keeps things kind of cool. Whereas going inland, you get away from that, it's much nicer. That's what I like here. As we pass the Temple University School Store. See this big sign on side of City Hall paying tribute to Bryce Harper of the Phillies as the National League Most Valuable Player. You love him or hate him, he goes out and plays hard every day, does his job. Looking up at the monumental City Hall. William Penn's statue is standing on the top of it as the gong strikes 11 o'clock in the morning. Some people walk around saying Philadelphia is not worth a visit, it's dying. A lot of tourists here enjoying themselves. Where they're standing is the literal heart of the city, the intersection of Market Street and Broad Street. Pointing up, get this stupendous view. Love this building. South Broad Street starts right here at City Hall. Gonna go all the way down to the end of it almost to go to the sports stadiums. I've walked it from here to the sports stadium. It's a good walk. It's about almost 3 miles, but I prefer to take the subway. Over there on the opposite corner is that McCormick's and Schmick's I spoke of. Great seafood and steaks. I highly recommend their New England clam chowder. Yeah, we're at the corner of Chestnut and Broad. A lot of movies were filmed in Philadelphia. Witness with Harrison Ford was, and Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. Here we're on the Broad Street subway line now at the Walnut Locust station, first station south of City Hall. Ride the next southbound all the way to the end at Patterson, where the stadiums are. Kawasaki subway cars built in the 80s use us now. Too bad the old Brill cars are gone. And here it comes. So here we are, the last stop, Patterson Avenue Sports Complex. When they have some games, they run expresses on the Broad Street subway from Fern Rock, the Northern Terminal, all the way down here non-stop. Well, we just emerged from the subway. Used to be called Patterson Avenue, an AT&T station. Now it's NRG station. Looking at this parking lot, this used to be the site of Veterans Stadium, which was torn down in 2004. Across the street from Patterson is the Wells Fargo Center, where the Philadelphia Flyers NHL team and the Philadelphia 76ers NBA team play. The Flyers used to play at the Spectrum, which was on Broad Street around the corner. I've been to a few games at the Vet. Big concrete bowl structure that was popular in the 70s, like Three Rivers Stadium and Riverfront Stadium, and became obsolete pretty quick in favor of these new designed only for baseball stadiums like Citizens Bank Park is. And also across Patterson is Lincoln Financial Field, the home of the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Although they won the Super Bowl several years ago, I'm still celebrating. Veterans Stadium. One time I went to the Vet, I think it was in 1976. They were playing the Cincinnati Reds, and I sat in right field, upstairs a little ways, and I'll never forget, it was about 95 degrees, and in the stadium it must have been about 120. And when the game was over, I was just about dead, and then I had to look forward to riding in those non-air conditioned Brill cars on the Broad Street subway back to town. I thought I was gonna die. I mean, there's Citizens Bank Park, the home of the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, you can't beat this place. You got all your sports stadiums right in close proximity. You don't have to go schlepping all over town like you do in New York. It's all very compact. In fact, I think last week they had it was on a Saturday, they had a Sixers game at 1 o'clock, a Phillies game at 4 o'clock, and a Flyers game at 7 o'clock. And there were people who attended all three events. Oh, I would have loved to have done that. It's only made possible by the close proximity of these three stadiums. There were some fans looking forward to hopefully a winning game today against the New York Mets. The Mets have got their best pitcher pitching, Max Scherzer. The Phillies have their best pitcher, Aaron Nola. Scherzer has been a great pitcher for all the teams he's played for, but a lot of times when players come to the Mets, they become mediocre. So I hope he doesn't fall under that spell. We'll see what happens. This bar restaurant, the Broad Street Bullies Pub. Broad Street Bullies were the nickname for the Philadelphia Flyers hockey team. Back in the 70s, they were always fighting, having brawls. They led the league in penalty minutes, and a lot of fists were flying on that team. And that's how they got the nickname, the Broad Street Bullies. Not so much used today, but they're legendary. I used to hate the Philadelphia Flyers. Being a big Islander fan, Islanders always did well against them, but they were a brutal bunch of hockey players. There's a statue of Michael Jack Schmidt, Philly's greatest ball player, many say. And there's quite a few Met fans here. But not everybody from Long Island is a Met fan. Gee, I wonder who I'm talking about. This is the Liberty Bell that was at the Vet. Met fans. Hey, I don't hate the Mets. I root for them. Francisco Lindor I like. It's just that I've been coming to Philadelphia for like a half a century, and you know, you got a fondness for a city, and I love baseball, so it's only academic that I root for the Philadelphia Phillies. Well, I'm sitting upstairs on the third base side in section 325. I like aerial views. A lot of Phillies authentic memorabilia, jackets, jerseys. Let's see what they got here. Let's see what I can walk out with here. Those jackets are nice. It's the old Phillies emblem. It's a sweatshirt, looks like. People might throw stuff at me on Long Island if I wear this. I'm surprised I made it down here dressed like this. Oh boy, it's cool. Oh, cool stuff. A little pricey though. Dean would go crazy if he went down here. My God, he spends money at model railroad shows. Wait till he comes to this place. Oh boy. All kinds of hats here. This is the traditional Phillies P. They had a Gothic one many years ago. And they have the Phillies logo. I'm actually fond of these. This is like when they won their world championship in 1980. They had this design on their hats. So and I love the color and the white background. Whoops.
You can get an adult one and we'll just make it tight.
Yeah. Did you ever see a Long Islander so happy to see Philadelphia Phillies souvenirs? Oh. It's a great history here. Got to explore the baseball park a little bit before the game starts. It's only 5 to 12. The game starts at 1:05. I'm having a little snack, lunch, on the third base side, looking out over the stadium. We'll take a little walking tour of Citizens Bank Park. Beautiful ballpark. I'm actually sitting 2 levels above. I'm in section 327. I'm standing where section 128 is. And it's a weird feeling coming down here and seeing all these Met fans. You know, it's like people I see around my neighborhood all the time, but I'm down here and I'm like a fish out of water. Well, it's the story of my life. Carnival-like atmosphere here today. It's probably not going to be a full house, but I love those 105 games. I couldn't resist coming to this game today, and it was against the Mets, no less. Easy, when I have a 105 game, it's easy to take the train down here, take your time getting to the ballpark, seeing the game. By the time it's over, hopefully it doesn't go extra innings too much. Get back into town, have dinner, and hop on Amtrak before 7 o'clock and go back to New York.
Yeah, man, I'm not going anywhere. I want to see what
Go right ahead. Standing behind the left field foul pole, I attended a game here several years ago, sitting upstairs a little further to the right. And I was there for a game against the Atlanta Braves when Cliff Lee fought off a bunch of pitches and fouled off a bunch of pitches and hit a home run. The place went crazy. Cliff Lee was a pretty good hitting pitcher and not a bad pitcher in his own right. He won a Cy Young Award with Cleveland. That Cliff Lee home run I was speaking of before occurred on July 9th, 2011. Look at this. Kids climbing up Philadelphia City Hall and the Philly fanatics standing there. Amazing.
Now they're all going out this way.
Kids can get a little workout here. Beautiful day. It's like 74 degrees here. A big line of kids here. You can bet on that. Met fans all over. And why shouldn't there be Met fans here? It's only 90 miles away. Easy trip. Sometimes going to a Phillies game when they play the Mets is almost like a Mets home game. But I think the Philly fans will outnumber the Met fans. Guys like me don't help the Mets cause too much. Hey, I don't hate the Mets. I want to make it perfectly clear. I don't hate the Mets. I've gone to Met games. I like them better than the Yankees. It's a Philly thing with me. That's what it is. You love a city and you love baseball. You got to root for that team. That's why I like the Red Sox, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Cleveland Indians. I love those towns. Mets play. They're designed similarly. They're both electric. Before game time, you can feel the electricity in the air. Right around here, the area that they call this at Citizens Bank Park is Ashburn Alley, named after a great Phillies ball player and broadcaster, Richie Ashburn. I was going to say Richie Allen. He was a great Philadelphia third baseman. Richie Ashburn died a few years ago, 1997. And here's a statue of Richie Ashburn. Very fast, great fielder. He also finished his career with the Mets, with that lowly 1962 team. In fact, he won the Mets Most Valuable Player Award that year, but he didn't think much of it since that team lost 120 games. But Richie Ashburn was a very colorful guy, great player, great broadcaster. He's beloved in this town. Tons of people went to his funeral, along with his broadcasting partner, Harry Callis. He died, I think, in 2009. Yeah, it was right after they won their last World Series. Harry Callis, the great Harry Callis. Philly's been blessed with some great broadcasters. And there it is, Ashburn Alley on those patented, weirdly shaped street signs that Philadelphia has. Yeah, we're standing on Ashburn Alley, and this is a great place to catch home run balls. What a day, what a day. I still got 30 minutes till game time. Everybody's getting their refreshments. I'm glad I got mine earlier because it looks like the wait will be mighty long. Well, here's one view that you can't get from Citi Field. A nice clean view of downtown Philadelphia. Straight up Broad Street. Seems they opened up a little shopping mall here, the 10th Street Market. You can see the Liberty Bell up there. Swings back and forth whenever a Philly hits a home run. And that thing is going to get quite a workout with the offensive team the Phillies have this year. And some players are out taking their warm-ups. Well, here I'm right underneath the gigantic scoreboard, left field. And here's a panoramic view behind the left field foul pole. Philadelphia's ever-changing skyline. And more big buildings are going to be built. Over here I'm swinging over towards Broad Street, which runs along the west boundary of the sports complex. Underneath is the Broad Street subway, which runs all the way up to the only open station on the Broad Street subway, the Fern Rock Transportation Center. Bull's Barbecue. The Bull was a Philadelphia Phillies slugger from the 70s, Greg Luzinski. He had tons of power and he could hit for average. Big husky guy. And here are some baseball cards of Phillies players from the past. Chase Utley. Jim Fragosi was a manager. Jamie Moyer, he was pitched here when he was 47. He's from Pottstown, right up the road. Manny Trio was like an MVP in the NLCS of '80. Bill White, who he broadcast the Yankees for many years, played for the Phillies and the Cardinals. Dave Cash, I remember seeing him in '76, that boiling hot day I was at the vet. His slogan was, "Yes, we can." Del Lunser, postseason star in 1980. Bobby Wine, Ryan Madsen, who was a relief pitcher. Jim Lonborg, remember him? Cy Young Award winner with the Red Sox in '67. Mitch Williams, the wild thing. You never knew what he was going to do. He'd either win it for you or blow it. A Tugger. Pitched for the Mets and for the Phillies. Most beloved character in both cities. Oscar Gamble. Remember he played with the Yankees? There's the Bull. Greg Luzinski. Jim Thome, 600 plus home runs. Very popular player, great player with the Indians and with the Phillies. Cliff Lee I spoke of earlier. Great pitcher, he also could handle himself with the bat. Richie Ashburn I spoke of before. Steve Bedrosian, he was a good pitcher, but he liked to throw at people. Bake McBride, leadoff hitter for the 1980 team. Jeff Stone, I don't know too much about him. Sixto Lezcano, I know he played for the Brewers. Bo Diaz, he was an Indians and a Phillies catcher. Rico Brogna, I believe he played with the Mets also. Johnny Briggs. Joe Blanton, Phillies pitcher in 2008. He hit a home run in the World Series. Gary Maddox, the Secretary of Defense. Great fielder, very good hitter. Always swung at the first pitch. Very popular in Philadelphia. Tony Gonzalez, he played for the '64 team. I don't know who Kevin Stocker is. Larry Anderson, Phillies reliever and comedian, and he's still a broadcaster with the team. Darren Dalton, popular catcher, started with the '93 National League Champion Phillies. Juan Samuel, he played for the Mets, he played for the Phillies. Grease Lightning, he could run like a demon, get 700 at bats most years, but he was known for striking out quite a bit. Tony Taylor, one of the most popular players to ever wear a Phillies uniform. Beloved as a player and as a coach. Larry Christensen was a pitcher. 76 team, pitched in the 70s mainly. Bob Boone, solid catcher, very good defensively. He has two kids, one is a manager, Bob Boone, or Brett Boone. Aaron Boone, excuse me. Kurt Schilling, fireballer with this team and the Red Sox. I'm not going to say anything else about him. Terry Mulholland, he pitched a no-hitter against the Giants. The great Roy Halladay, great pitcher for the Blue Jays and the Phillies. He pitched a no-hitter in the postseason against the Reds. Pitched a perfect game. He's no longer with us. Dickie Knowles. Kooky Rojas was a manager and a player. Very popular, easygoing guy, well-liked. And Charlie Manuel, the manager of the 2008 Phillies. Very popular figure in this town. There's too many of these. I could go on and on and on and on and on. Oh, here's a guy, Von Hayes. One game against the Mets, I think it was in 1985. One of those great slugfests that I love so much. They beat the Mets 26-7. In the first inning, he hit 2 home runs. Incredible. The great Tim McCarver. Played 4 decades. Very popular with the Phillies. Steve Carlton's personal catcher. Billy Wagner, fireballing reliever, pitched for the Phillies and the Mets. Frank Lucchese, extremely fiery, hot-tempered Phillies manager. When I think of fiery players, I think of him and I think of Larry Bowa. I remember one game in Connie Mack Stadium. It was against the Mets, 1970. Mets were leading, and Jim Bunning was pitching for the Phillies. He is a great pitcher. And he didn't get the call that he wanted, and he threw his mitt down on the ground, and the umpire got mad at him and threw him out of the game. And then Frank Lucchese came running out, screaming and yelling, and the manager, he got thrown out of the game. And then in the next inning, Larry Boa came up and argued balls and strikes, and he got thrown out of the game. Phillies just self-destructed, and they wound up losing that game. I'll never forget it. Now this guy, Richie Allen, you won't find much in the way of brute strength. And if you talk about this guy, he had it. He could hit a ball a million miles. He wasn't really that great a third baseman, but he was really wanted for his bat. And he was strong. Great ball player, very popular in Philly, even though at times he was at odds with the fans. But he'll long be remembered in Philadelphia. Same with Ryan Howard, big slugger in the late 2000s. This guy, Gary Matthews, otherwise known as Sarge, loved him. Great Phillies broadcaster, great player. I had the pleasure of meeting him prior to a Phillies game back in 2019. There's Larry Boa, looks like a rookie card. And Denny Doyle played for the Red Sox also. Lastly, John Crook, great hitter with the Phillies. Funny guy. He's a broadcaster with them now. Here's my seat. Great view. One hand I'll say yay, another hand I'll say boo. The announcer that's announcing the lineups is longtime Philly broadcaster Dan Baker. 50 years he's been here.
First baseman, number 7, number 9. Left fielder,
Who are these people?
number 1. Second baseman, Jeff Trenton. 9, number 3. Catcher, Trolleys.
Who's he?
Starting pitcher, 21, Max Scherzer.
Ah, great Max Scherzer, Mad Max. Since they don't have. Yay! Let's hear this powder keg of a lineup. MVP! Yay! Big bopper, big acquisition. Hey! Oh boy. Not familiar with him. Is he a relative of my 9th grade science teacher? Don't know him. The ace of spades. Aaron Nola, yeah. Should be a great game. Almost game time. I'm not going to record the game. That's violation of copyright. This is a hitter's ballpark, and the Phillies have a hitting team, and the air is warm, so I'm anticipating that the ball is going to fly out of here real easy today. I hope so. Game is underway. Game time temperature 79 degrees. Temperature back in New York only 64 degrees. Good decision to come down here today. Well, the leadoff hitter walked, and I heard a lot of applause in here. Man, oh man, we got a little schizophrenic crowd here today. It's not a full house. Well, day games and during the week usually aren't, but glad I could make it. Francisco Lindor is a high-priced player. He was a great player with the Cleveland Indians. Had a disastrous season with the Mets last year. Hopeful of... I'm rooting for him. I like Lindor. He almost got his head bashed in the other day. Oh my God. What did Francisco Lindor do to his hair? I could see him 1,000 miles away in the dark. End of the third inning. Phillies haven't done squat so far. Leaving men on base, striking out, flying out, popping out. But I know this team's ability to score runs, so I'm not going to panic just yet. They got a very heavily concentrated offensive lineup. Mets and Phillies have been a rivalry the last 10 or so years. I mean, it's a natural geographic rival. They're only 90 miles apart. I think what really started this rivalry with the Mets was back in 2007 when Phillies second baseman Jimmy Rollins said to the whole world that we are the team to beat. Well, he backed up his boast. They won the National League Division title that year. The Mets just fell apart. So, and that's what started it. I've gone to several games at both here and Veterans Stadium to see games against the Mets. 1980, I went to a twilight doubleheader down at the Vet. Saw 2 games. I think the Phillies won both of them. Yeah, it's quite a rivalry. I mean, the Mets pitcher, Max Scherzer, let's face it, he's a great pitcher. He's doing his job today. But I doubt if he's going to pitch a complete game. Hopefully the Phillies can hit the Mets bullpen, which I hear is not the best. Let's hope. It's the top of the fourth, and the mood here amongst the Phillies fans is soured considerably. Nola hit his second batter with the bases loaded, no less. Bringing home the third run of the game, and there's still nobody. No, there's one out. But they're calling for Joe Girardi's head to come and take Nola out of the game. He's hitting everybody in the lineup for the Mets. That's the most exciting thing that's happened in this game so far. The fanatic. And you can see a sea of blue and red here. There was a time, believe it or not, I think it was late 90s, early 2000s when the Phillies were pretty bad. Attendance was really lagging. New York Met fans up in the New York area were getting letters from the Phillies asking them to come down to attend games. Well, it's 4:30. I'm going to leave. I left after the 7th inning. Phillies were down 8-5. I wanted to get into town and have dinner before I go down on the train and get on Amtrak. They may yet come back, but it's good to come to see the Phillies down in Citizens Bank Ballpark in Philadelphia, PA. Farewell, Citizens Bank Park. Maybe I'll come back for another game or 2 this summer. We're on the Broad Street subway here at Patterson, or NRG station, on a specially painted Philadelphia Flyers shrink-wrap subway car. Dig that, will you? That's a lot better than what they used to say years ago with these cars. They'd say, "Door is closing." Highly illiterate. Sounded like something you'd hear on a subway in Jackson, Mississippi. These Kawasaki subway cars on the Broad Street line are just about 40 years old, and although I kind of miss the old grill cars, these things are doing quite well for being 40 years old. Okay, we're at City Hall. You'll see that Philadelphia Flyers adoring car. That's the second car. Listen to that horn. Running that curve down there. In fact, at both ends of the station, they always sound their horn. So we're at the City Hall trolley station. Might as well get a few trolley cars coming. It's rush hour. You got a lot of trolley routes that serve the station. You got the 11, the 13, the 10, 34, and 36. They're around a loop here at City Hall. The 34 Baltimore Avenue line. These are Kawasaki built trolleys. They were delivered back in 1980. They're over 40 years old. Kawasaki rail vehicles in the city have done quite well. I know they want to replace them. You could hear that AA2 horn from the Broad Street downstairs. This is a 13. Goes to Darby, Yaden. You heard the expression, running like streetcars in the rush hour? Well, these street cars do run very heavy this time of day. See what I mean? Here's one right behind him, another 34. This place sort of reminds me of Park Street in Boston on the Green Line. You have trolleys. You have the B trolleys to Boston College, the C's to Cleveland Circle, the D's to Riverside, and the E's to Heath Street. The A's used to go to Watertown, but that service was discontinued decades ago. And I'm walking back to 30th Street Station. Catch Amtrak later. Down JFK Boulevard, we're right alongside SEPTA's line out of Suburban Station. That train was heading to its next stop at 30th Street. That's one hell of a place to take a nap. A little closer to 30th Street on JFK Boulevard. Got a Doylestown train. He just pulled out of the upper level of 30th Street and he's diving down towards the tunnel into Suburban Station. Train of those Silverliner 4s, GE junk. But good things happen here too. You have to think positively. Further west, we're over the CSX track. That's the old B&O main line from Park Junction south. Park Junction is a little ways north of here, behind the Philadelphia Art Museum. You see the stop northbound, might be waiting for a southbound. As you can see, there's a hiking trail right alongside the railroad. Great place to rail fan. There's a West Trenton bound Silverliner 4 departing 30th Street, heading to the tunnel. All right, I'm back at the iconic 30th Street station. Gonna catch train 654 at 6:50 back to New York. Good old Keystone 654. It seems like I always ride this train. Well, it's a fast train usually, but had a nice time down here in spite of the Mets winning. Max Scherzer pitched a great game. He kept the Phillies bats dead, ice cold. And then when he was lifted for the bullpen, they were already down 8-1, so it was a little too late. But had a good time. I always have a good time when I go to Philly. Love this town.